everyone, I hope you've been enjoying your time with Deltarune Chapters 3 and 4. If you don't plan on buying the game anytime soon and are here for a quick summary, that's cool too. Either way, today I'll be discussing the good and bad from start to finish of Deltarune Chapter 3 in 10 minutes. Spoilers, obviously. You might recall that in the end of Chapter 2, Chris opened a dark fountain inside our house. Therefore, it's no surprise that when we awaken, we are already in this new dark world. The opening here feels very similar to Chapter 1's opening, with the same breakable objects and falling from platforms to build the atmosphere. Here, though, the party gets together pretty much immediately. Susie and Rousey converse and seem to have a growing friendship. She wants him to come to the light world, but Rousey's a darkener, so he can't. I thought this was obvious. Maybe it was consciously to Susie, but she held out hope anyway. Also, which object in the light world is Rousey? We find a treasure chest that reveals a new currency called points. It's not a high quantity, but it serves to show us that dark dollars are not our forefront money right now. Our 3 chapters so far all seem to have a theme based on a different era of entertainment. Playing cards, modern computers, and now retro TV and gaming. We're introduced to this new theme with the weird, low-res commercial. I don't know if it's just an illusion, but some of it looks like it's rendered in 3D. I don't think Game Maker supports that though, so I guess it's just some genius pixel artist at work. The game show just seems so exciting. I can even win a genuine Rousey plush? Take my money. 100 likes and I'll press checkout. Our heroes debate whether they should participate, but where else are we going to get content? So of course we agree, but just for a round or two. As we walk to the stage, we're introduced to a few new characters from this chapter, most notably El Nino and La Nina. When we walk to the right, we get an overview of the game show, including setting our names, the wonderful duck controllers, and then we're in. It's clearly based on The Legend of Zelda from the original Nintendo, keeping with the retro theme. Honestly, I think way too much time is spent on these parts, they take forever. In this first game, we have to find 3 keys by winning battles and answering quizzes. This quiz has a peculiarly incorrect question. Fangamer.com clearly indicates the MSRP of the Rousey plush to be $36 USD. Where did you get 32 from, Tenna? Battles with Shadow Guys have this fun minigame where we aim to shoot at their hats or socks to spare them. I remember speculation over the trailer saying we need 25 to recruit, but that'll make sense later. A few more things happen during this segment, but it's mostly the same quizzing and battling. We find Lancer and use him to dig this conveniently Lancer-marked hole. The Sphinx gives us an actually good quiz because it includes the duck. Finally, after drying up the oasis, the weather couple gets a little mad at us and attacks. Tenna informs us that we'll have to act 99 times to win the battle, but in reality, we just have to pay attention to this forecast. Eventually, they'll ask you to pick your preference between the 2 of them, and either way, it'll cause a falling out. Only around 30 I Love TVs in, Tenna finishes the rest for us and leaves those 2 to it. Now that we have all the items required to leave, we have to do the physical challenge minigame. This minigame requires us to catch food while avoiding fire and give it to customers. I didn't do too well at this minigame. Going for the special customers in the back led me to miss entirely sometimes, and I was hit more times than I care to admit. Eventually, Tenna reveals we got an A rank for the board. There will be another one though, but we have access to the green room in between. We can travel to every door here but the S door, so let's check them out. My favorite character of this chapter waits behind the C door. His awe-inspiring words and top-tier attacks strike fear in the hearts of many. Thankfully, he lets us free after a few turns. I decide not to gamble in the B door or frolic in the A door for now. We have to see what's behind the S door, though. Thankfully, we could pay this businessman 1,500 points to promote us to S rank through totally legal means. Only Chris enters the door and heads backstage. Here we find the real game. Not the made-for-TV revision, the one whose gameplay actually resembles The Legend of Zelda. We walk around slaying monsters, gaining levels to access new areas. Eventually we reach the max level, which allows us to cut through trees. In the middle of the forest is the ice key. There's nothing more we can do back here for now, so we head to round 2. For this round we have to use a camera to take pictures. Some of these pictures act as the keys, while taking a picture of any old entity will give points. We have to bring El Nino back to La Nina to create a bridge, but first we must obtain a raft. A few fun things happen along the way here. Susie switches around the controllers, so we get to mess around with the power bangle for a while. Rousey gets mad about this at first, but eventually enjoys it. We use our camera to decimate some of the digits in Lancer's price tag, and he digs up this green waterfall for us. There's a camera-themed mini-boss fight where we have to time our camera shots to accrue mercy. The bullets have the gimmick of changing course while traveling, adding a new layer to dodging. Now that we have everything we need, we can head to the bridge where Rules Card is, already waiting for some reason. Whatever their dynamic is, the bridge appears, so onto the physical challenge. This one is very fun. It's a simple rhythm game with only 2 notes, so it's not very difficult, but it's satisfying to play along with the notes nonetheless. Susie doesn't exactly follow directions, but I think the score is only calculated based on our own performance. The concert S rank wasn't enough to bring my overall score past an A, so you know what that means. The water cooler room actually saved me this time. I ended up with 1,300 points, but there were apparently 200 under the water cooler, so I have enough to legally do business now. We stabbed through multitudes of enemies once more in the board 2 parallel. Entering the ice ski door, we are met with an atmosphere feeling more akin to a dungeon. Besides the regular slaughter of enemies, there are some clear allusions to the Snowgrave route. A girl in a white cloak with ice magic becomes our companion. She guides us through a Lost Woods style section and then is consumed along with the ice key to unlock the shelter key. Next, there are a couple puzzles we have to complete in order to obtain codes to proceed. We do this by determining the order of the TV screens. Tenna is a bit angry when he finds out we've been snooping around, so he forces us to play one final boring game until we like it. The quizzes force us to say we are having fun, but we can't. The only solution is to turn off the TV using the remote-like enemy. Next, we are introduced to Horse Rousey and his rodeo shooting minigame. It's pretty easy for now, and we have to do it a few times. A few areas have stealth zones, but Susie decides we should go fast. That's convenient. We probably needed that speed boost to even make it past the lights anyway. We're also able to heroically save the Shadow Guys from employment, thus recruiting all of them to Castletown. The next battle is my favorite in the chapter gimmick-wise. We have to time our actions to enlist Lancer's help. This happens in a few phases. First, it's a simple timing the button when Lancer is over the cursor. After that, the act buttons all become columns and you have to move to the Lancer to choose it, while also avoiding rules. Next, we can finally finish our journey for the Shadow Mantle. The leveling and killing everyone is more of the same. It feels really padded out and somewhat boring, meaning it must have some allusion to the weird route or generally being evil. There's actually a boss here. We have to dodge its bombs and flames in a more traditional style, and knife it when we get the chance. This took me a few tries, but it's short and you can get back in the game quickly. There's a strange interaction afterward. 8-Bit Chris is too short to reach the chest, but they can walk off the screen and attack real Chris. Since we're controlling small Chris still here, and big Chris runs away, I think it's safe to assume the soul directly transfers into small Chris while we play the game. We only regain control of normal Chris when the small one disappears entirely. Shadow Mantle in hand, it's time to proceed to the final section. By golly gee, I sure do hope I beat the chapter right now and I'm not here for another 3 hours! That's called subtle foreshadowing. The Tenna boss fight is incredible, honestly. Whenever I play Deltarune, I always think how each minigame is coded from the ground up just to be used only once. This fight gives every single one a proper send-off. As you battle through attacks and minigames, the speed gradually ramps up. Once you reach 1,000 points, a gauntlet begins. Even WarioWare would be envious of the speed these microgames transition at. Finally, we just have to shoot him up Tenna a bit, then like every Toby Fox character, he realizes the error of his ways. See? That only took 15 minutes! I bet there's nothing to worry about. Oh. It's pain and suffering time! The Roaring Knight will absolutely decimate you the first time you fight it, but that's intended. It's actually a forced loss that you can win. If you lose, the story continues as normal. But we want our Shadow Crystal, so when we lose, we return to title and try again. Basically, if you don't have the Shadow Mantle, everyone gets one-shotted. But all those S-Room games we did earlier gave us that item. We still take a lot of damage, but with a solid strategy, it's very possible. Also, make sure you save after beating Tenna, or you'll have to do that again. I found that out the hard way. After a solid hour and a half of banging my head against the wall, I formulated a plan. First, equip the mantle on Susie since she's the one we need to attack with. The other two should be defending to mitigate damage and gain TP. You should absolutely go back to the vending machines to buy the best healing items and weapons. I rocked an almost full loadout of deluxe dinners, and still barely had enough on my winning run. As someone who plays mostly pacifistically for all the recruits, I had to get used to Rude Buster. Eventually, and I mean eventually, you'll make it to this attack. All you need to do is survive it, and you win. Of course, this is Deltarune, so when you win this fight, nothing changes, besides the knight dropping a couple important items. He just gets to stab you in the cutscene, and the chapter proceeds as normal. The chapter ends on a cliffhanger. We aren't allowed to explore either town, we just know there are 2 dark fountains at once, and that Chris proceeds onwards while Susie seems to run to close Chapter 3's fountain. This makes sense since Chapter 4 is out at the same time, and I'm very excited to play it. Just gotta make this video first. Thanks so much for watching if you made it this far, and subscribe for Chapter 4 next week. Dude, you're not in this video.
No, Rule's card is better than Queen.